Hey folks, it's Andrew. Welcome back. So let's talk about certifications and what certifications would work well if you're going to get into the IAM or Identity Access Management field. There are a couple of certifications that are specific to IAM. We'll talk about that. But there are also some other certifications that I think you should go for that will help you. So let's talk about these different certifications, what they really mean in terms of your role in IAM, and what I think, in my opinion, you should go for. So let's get started. The first certification I want to talk about is the Security Plus. I personally believe this is a great one to get first. There's an updated version that just came out, and I still believe that CompTIA is going to, yes, they're going to still accept vouchers until July 31st of 2024. But for this segment, I'm really going to focus on the updated SY0701 version. And I already grabbed the objectives, so let's break that down a little bit more. You'll notice here on the objectives, you have your general security concepts, threats, vulnerabilities, and mitigation, secure architecture, secure operations, and then of course the last one, which is your security program management and oversight. I won't go into too much detail of each domain, but there are amazing individuals out there, such as Professor Mezer, who have great videos, great courses that break down how to study for the Security Plus. So you want to really take that time to watch those videos. They will help you. But I really want to just talk about sections of each of these domains that really pertain to IAM. So let's talk about the very first one. So the general security concepts. The biggest ones I really want you to focus on is really understanding the CIA triad, which is confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Really understand what that means or what and how they represent. You also have the AAA model, which is your authentication, authorization, and accounting. And finally, your favorite buzzword in the cybersecurity world today, zero trust, and really what that means. Also, when we go a little bit down further here, the biggest things focus on from an IAM perspective is understanding PKI or public key infrastructure. For example, you'll have solutions or you have options where you'll use a asymmetric encryption, which is public key and private key, and how that works, especially if you're somebody who works for the federal government or as a contractor for the government or anybody else that uses some kind of PIV card or some kind of card that has a certificate token in it. That's kind of a way for them to really decrypt and encrypt messages or how to authenticate yourself. Also, one of the things I want you to really take note is hashing and salting of passwords. And when I first started this channel, I made a little funny video in the beginning about what salting is and hashing is. So I'll link that down below or maybe above this where you can go back to that video that I talk a little bit more and break down what is salting and hashing of your passwords. And then finally, understanding really what digital signatures are and why we use them today. A little bit different today. Digital signatures are becoming a little more outdated and really used differently to this day, or actually not even used at all. But that's still something that you should really know and understand how it works and why we use it. Finally, some other things is what a certificate revocation list is, or a CRL, and of course a online certificate status protocol. These will help you just understand from an identity perspective how certificates work and with your identity to really authenticate yourself. All right, let's move on to section 2. So section 2 is big because we are protecting our user's identity and the common threat actors right here. And it's critical for us to really understand what is our attack vectors and what can we do to protect it. So I'm going to skip down to sections 2.3 and 2.4. These to me are very fundamental in how we build our identity solutions architecture. Need to really understand any methods to access our systems and really understand the vulnerabilities such as your zero-day attacks that will help you become more of a stronger identity practitioner. You'll see us here, we need to really understand how we can, when we build systems, how to make sure that these are something that we take care of and really look at. And of course, from a passport perspective, 2.4, brute force attacks and spraying attacks, and what we can do as IAM practitioners to create policies to really mitigate that. For example, brute force is maybe after 5 unsuccessful logins, we lock the account temporarily and just validate or look at what's going on. Those are a couple of examples that as an identity person, you really want to take into account. 2.6, understanding ACLs or access control lists is critical, and also least privilege, and really understanding what that means. And the funny part of what's interesting is you'll have this default password changes right here. In NIST 863, and for those who do not work for the federal government or really don't use NIST, NIST is a guideline for commercial people, but for government agencies and like myself, who's a contractor, it is our bylaws. We abide by these in terms of getting our cybersecurity posture up to date. And NIST is the organization that really sets those standards. They have a publication 863 that they really recommend that we get rid of 90-day rotations of passwords, which is this kind of this default password changes here. I'm not saying that that's part of it, but we really now want people to have more longer, memorable passphrases that you will remember. And that helps mitigate the need to change a password every 90 days because it becomes password fatigue that you know so many passwords. And that's why we have password managers to this day. So that's something where at least you'll understand why this policy is from section 2.5. And just one more fun note is I know I just said we really want more longer memorable passphrases. You should. And I'll link in the description below a table that people have referenced daily. Talks about the number of characters in your password and how harder it is for hackers or systems or rainbow attacks or dictionary attacks for them to really break your account. And the longer their passphrase, the harder it is in terms of years or even ever that they basically break your password really until quantum computing comes full light. And that's a whole different story that we won't talk about today. Just one more thing also, your passphrases, don't make it your kid's birthday, your spouse's birthday, your pet's birthday, or something so easy. Make it a phrase that you will remember, but just that's not so common that attack vectors, hackers be like, yeah, I'm going to find this information on social media, for example, and use that to see if I can unlock your machine or get access to your account via your password. So fun things you guys should really think about. Section 3.0, security architecture. And this is good to know as you work with your architecture and you build great foundations, how systems work today. It's good to really know how your identity data flows from one app to another, and maybe how you have to poke holes within firewalls, any risks that comes about it. This is a good section for you to really understand those aspects of it. And one more thing also is, with more companies being more of a hybrid approach, which is either on-premises or on-prem for a lot of stuff. So, for example, Active Directory and maybe some cloud like Azure, you're going to have these models where you're going to really, from an architecture perspective, understand how that's being built or what we need to do. And especially for some of these sections here that you'll notice here, how that works or how these connect each other or what are some holes that we need to really mitigate, especially on the cloud where you have misconfigurations that can cause holes that hackers will exploit to get into. So that's something that really from this section 3.0 and anything within this section, you should really take your time to understand. You'll see different kinds of data types and data at rest and transit. It's good to really know all that information, and that really helps you, as even especially stuff like how you secure data. Again, back to hashing, encryption, which is the above earlier, obfuscation and segmentation and permission restrictions. These are very critical that as an identity person, you should already know. I'm not saying this section is not critical, but those things as an identity person really sticks out towards you. So section 4.0 is very critical. From an identity perspective, understand why you must establish a baseline. So for example, I've worked with many government agencies and we help build their IAM policies. How users created, what is our baseline? If someone needs elevated access, how do they get that access? Are there training that they need to take to get that access? Those are policies and really need to understand how it is. And that's kind of, again, where you secure your baselines, how that works today, because it's resources. Also, from a baseline perspective, it could be how computers are being shipped to you. What is the common baseline? How do we deploy it? How do we maintain it? And that's kind of what this means too, is all the different targets that we have today. MDM is very critical because if you work for a government agency and you get a GFE or a government furnished equipment, how do we manage those devices? If you were to lose it, can I wipe that laptop or cell phone quickly so we don't get compromised. Those are the different things that you look at. And also BYOD, which is a huge thing that happens today in identity world that actually I'm trying to solve in my current role too, is what if we have people that work internationally or we have to travel for work? How do I give them access to something that doesn't require me to give them a device? Can I give them something that they can use, or can I have them log into maybe a virtual desktop that I manage? And how do I get access to that and keep it where access is minimal, or if somehow something is short served, I can minimize the damage? Those are some things that you'll really understand in this section 4.0. And also you'll notice here when we go down a little further, you'll see all the different dark web, the pen testing. Those are something that you should really understand. And one of the things that I'm very excited about too, that you'll really learn more about, is when it comes to section 4.4 about logging and how that works, and working with a SIEM tool or security information event such as Splunk. How does that work today? How do I push my logs in there to have my SecOps team evaluate IP addresses? For example, again, if I'm somebody who took my machine somewhere I shouldn't have, or I live in the DMV area, which is your district metropolitan, so it's DC, Maryland, Virginia, DMV area, and for some odd reason my account's being logged in from somewhere in Eastern Europe, is that really happening? I'm right here next to you. That's an issue. So the logs can take a look at that, and we could see from our SIEM tool, again, like Splunk, for example, that, hey, this is really abnormal. We should look into that more. What's also great in section 4.6, which is huge for us, is SAML and OAuth and LDAP for single sign-on, identity proofing. Huge. How do I validate you are who you are? If you're a new person that just got onboarded to a new company, AC, how do I prove you are who you are? Those who are very familiar, you get a new job, you have that I-9 form, right? That you come in, you give them, you come in day one, you give them either two forms ID or your passport, which is I think that's an A level, and that's all you need. That's for me to prove you, validate you are who you are. You're not lying. That's huge. Federation. If I'm a company, let's say company A, and I'm company B, works together, how do I validate that somebody at company B really works for company B, or they're still active, so I get access to my information from company A? That's what federation is. All your different single sign-on methodologies, LDAP, OAuth, and SAML. We talk about access controls, mandatory, discretionary, rule-based. That all this right here, folks, all IAM, right here. This is everything you want to learn here. You're going to use that in your day-to-day job today. And then this is really critical too, is we're going to talk about process for preparation, and why, especially when it comes to not if you get breached, it's when you get breached. What are your tabletop exercises that you have today to really make sure, hey, these are the exercises we're going to do, that we need to make sure that if we have a playbook, that when we do get breached, how do we identify it, report it, contain it, and even eradicate it, and then talk about it afterwards. Those are some interesting things that are important things, from a process perspective, you will learn. And of course, sometimes too, it happens, it's unfortunate though, legal holds, e-discoveries. How do I disable account? Retain the information by deleting it from a certain amount of time, or maybe put a particular hold that says, hey, do not touch this account until legal has done their work. All those things you'll learn more about, and how, from an identity perspective, you can implement that. Section 5 is solid too, because you learn a lot of things, especially comes to different, policies, not really policies, but I would say more methodologies. For example, the software development lifecycle, or SDLC. Now, you have common ones. You have your typical waterfall one. You have Agile. You'll learn both of those, and really how softwares are being developed today. So from a waterfall perspective, really understand that most let's say systems, let's say Okta, for example, is you have to make sure that you get the right champions or individuals first. You maybe build a charter, rules that you have to abide by. And then from there is I take requirements from maybe a business analyst and a PM, which is a project manager. And then you make sure you validate the requirements, and then you develop it based on the requirements, and then you do prototyping, and you do testing, and then you do UAT testing. And if you're working for the government, maybe IBV testing. That's the third party that validate, and then you deploy in production. All that different process from a SLDC perspective. Change management, you'll learn about that. It's critical. I need to submit enhancement, or hey, we're doing a new upgrade. How does that work for your company or organization today? Do I submit a ServiceNow ticket? They meet maybe once a month, and you state your case. You maybe write documentation of what the impact is to the whole system. Can I do it off business hours? What happens if something screws up? How do I pull it all back? All those different things you'll learn about change management. Standard policies, access control, all these right here is critical from an identity perspective. Of course, like I said earlier, your offboarding, onboarding, and then your playbooks from there. Very, very, very critical. And some of the other things that you really should know, and especially if you're coming from a person who's going to be more of a consultant role, you work for the big five, your Booz Allens, your Deloittes, your Accentures, all those different companies, you might really need to understand what a statement of work is, or a SOW, because that's part of your job. But then you might have NDAs. You can't disclose what you're doing for the company, agency, government, whatever. And also, if you do sometimes work for the federal government, I see it more from federal government perspective, is you might have MOAs and MOUs, which is basically understandings or memorandum understandings. Is, hey, look, agency A, I'm going to need access to your databases to pull data to make sure that we have updated data. Let's come with an understanding of what's being delivered from our standards. What are some mitigations that we need to do if something should happen? And then how long this is going to be in place. So just some of the common things MOUs and MOAs are really created for is that understanding, or they are really going, hey, let's have a more or less a official document that we agree to share data, or I'm going to access your account, and what's all that entails, or are some things that should happen if something should go wrong, and then the length from time to time. So that's really what this is critical. If you work for the federal government as a contractor or a federal government yourself, these two are very common today. And you'll see the different other things here from that perspective in terms of, as you really take this test for certification, it will help you. And that is why I think the Security Plus should be your very, very first certification. If you're trying to become an identity practitioner, you should go for this first, because it gives you a great baseline of everything cybersecurity. And there's so many little nuggets in there in IAM that you can use, because I am really in the belief that the better you have a strong cybersecurity identity, and what I mean by that is you understand what's going on around you, the stronger you're going to be as an IAM practitioner. So you can really think that what are some of the impacts I have, and also some of the partnerships you'll make with other teams within your cybersecurity, forum or section, to work together to come with a strong solution. Because to me, teamwork is the best way to do it. And I am very blessed that in my career, I've had people, I have great relationships with people on the GRC team, the SecOps team, and so on and so forth, to make sure that we all come together to make just a good, solid security posture. All right. So that's the first one, the Security Plus. Now let's move on to the second one. So the second one I want to talk about is more your vendor-specific certifications. And there are many, many companies out there that have their own certifications. And they really want to show you how their system does IAM within their system. And there are great ones out there, especially ones in Okta, which I'm showing on my screen here, SailPoint, OneLogin, they all have it, which is great. Some are very well priced and some are very expensive. So really just keep that in mind. And really what I think most people should go for, and I am no shape or form work for Okta at all. It just happens that Okta to me meets a lot of the requirements, in my opinion, that is not that expensive, gives you opportunity to do hands-on work to show that you understand IAM. This certification right here, this hands-on OAE one is reasonably priced, only $250, which is great versus other ones that are in the thousands. I won't name those companies, but they are expensive. And again, you do a hands-on part of it, which is great. Because to me, that's really what matters. Because why not be able to show a hiring manager that you know the core concepts of IAM, such as joiner, mover, leaver, and use a system like Okta to show it, which is great. And I really feel strongly, and this is just my belief, that regardless of the systems, SailPoints, OneLogins, Okta, Savance, it doesn't matter in my opinion. As long as you know the core concepts of identity, you can use any system. And I believe this, that I can really learn any system in 2-3 weeks and be very, efficient in talking about the system. But I would do a disservice to my company or to my customer if I didn't really know identity concepts together. How do I ask the right questions about joiner, mover, leaver? And how do I get those information requirements back? Because the systems, they all work the same today, in my opinion. So really focus on the core concepts. And Okta, for example, is a good vendor certification. So you can just showcase how you know what you're doing in terms of identity from there. And that's great too. So Okta, from a vendor perspective, is really what you go for. There are other ones. Microsoft has their own too. So just keep that in mind. But again, my personal opinion, and again, I do not work for Okta in no shape or form. I don't promote Okta at all. I just have to know that I am appreciative of Okta for giving you a platform where you can get your own developer account, and you can go get trial places like Atlassian or other places and really understand and work on that whole user management lifecycle, and really showcase that and put that on your resume. So the next set of certs I want to talk about is IAM specific ones. And there aren't that many today. If you do a Google search today on the certifications, you will find tons of responses back from pen testing, cloud. There's a ton. But in the world of identity, there's really only 2, which is really, it's getting there, I guess. And the first one I want to talk about is the CID Pro. And the CID Pro is a certification that is being done by ID Pro, who I'm a member of. And the CID Pro, I am very honored to have this certification because it's great because it tests you on your IAM experience from a functional or a experience perspective, but also from a technical perspective too. Not too much technical. There's a combination of both because it showcases that you can understand those type of use cases. And one thing I really want you to be aware of from the CID Pro perspective is that they really suggest that you have 2-3 years more of experience before taking this test or the certification, because like I said earlier, a lot of the questions are very much user-based in terms of they have the body of knowledge, which is up here, that they kind of reference often. And it's good to know that. But I think the more and more you live and die by some of these experiences, the more easier it is when it comes to the questions. You'll be like, yeah, it's this answer. It's not like the CISP where it's the CISP world answers that they're looking for versus the, in real life, it's really this, which happens. And that's why some people fail the CISP because of that. But anyway, I digress. Going back to the CID Pro, it will help you, again, once you do real world stuff, especially if you work for companies that does GDRP. It's good. They'll ask you questions like that. So really focus on that. One thing, just let's let everybody know, this exam is not cheap. It's $750, but again, they are building that knowledge. And I really, really hope that more companies out there really start to take the CID Pro seriously, because I take it seriously. I'm very proud of having it on my resume and on my LinkedIn profile. It's great to show that case, and I really hope more companies take that as almost the same thing as having like the Security Plus, because it shows, especially in the identity world, that you know your stuff. The second certification that's out there in terms of IAM is certifications from the Identity Management Institute. And I'll be full honest with everybody here. I know about this organization, and I'm very happy that they have these certifications, but I have no experience with them or what they offer. They have an array, you can see here on the screen here, of the different types of sections or specifics within IAM that they test you on, which is great. And it is good to take if you want to, but I won't speak much about the certification, but know that it is an option, and they do have specific ones that here from the list right here. And I believe their main one is their here's is the certified identity access manager one here is their main ones. But you can see it from screen. I'll link all these in a description, all the different certification locations that you have that will help you in terms of these certifications out there. So those are really the big ones. So you have, again, your identity ones that are out there, your vendor specific ones, and then the security plus. So those are really the certifications out there that I think will kind of help you in terms of getting to your achievement in terms of getting certifications for IAM. Okay, so that was a lot, right, in terms of certifications out there. And I want to be very open with you too. Getting a certification does not mean you're shooing for a job. It is great to have. It's a great achievement. I am proud of the certifications that I have earned in my career. But you really need to understand you take the knowledge from them and really talk about them. I have interviewed many people out there who have high-level certification or things or specific vendor ones that I expect them to know certain services or what they provide to you, and they couldn't answer it for me. And I was very disappointed by that. And that's something where that when you have a certification, I'm going to ask you these questions in an interview. I'm not going to always grill you on that, but I really expect you to know things. So if you have an Okta certification, I'm going to ask you, hey, how do I do restricted admin access, or can I create my own admins? How do I restrict that? How do I scope those? Can you do a SAML, SSO without using a application from the ON network? Those type of things. So just keep that in mind. Those are the certifications that I think will help you. The Security Plus to me is the good foundational one that you should go for that will help you out. And then, like I said earlier, I've talked about the vendor ones. I talked about the IAM Specific ones. Those are your ones that you can go for afterwards from there. I really hope this helped you in terms of the video of what certification should I go for, what makes sense for me. Those are some ones that I think will help you out. If you have any questions or you have some comments, leave them down below. I love your comments. They make me better. I enjoy responding to them when I can. I'm going to be better this year at responding to your comments. So I really appreciate that. And as always, stay curious because you never know. I'll see you soon. See ya.